Hi, welcome to this lecture on the business change lifecycle. The business change lifecycle consists of 5 stages: alignment, definition, design, implementation, and realization. And it's a cycle that means that once you reach the end of it, you start back at the very beginning and repeat. This ensures that the business is constantly appraising itself against the external environment to remain relevant and in touch with the market. The first step of the business change lifecycle is alignment. This involves aligning the organisation to the external environment. And this is where business strategy is created. There are many techniques and methods for analysing the external environment, such as PESTLE and Porter's 5 Forces. But some of the things that the organisation is looking to align to are the customer habits, or the habits of potential customers of the organisation. Are these changing, and does the organisation need to change with them? There's the economy, and political and legal landscapes. So are there any upcoming constraints about to be placed on the business that it needs to prepare for? There are the social and environmental factors. So how are the views of society and the customers of the organisation changing? Are there any technological advances out there that could affect the business? Or are there any competitors that are threatening the organisation's position? So considering these factors means that the organisation takes an outward-looking view to decide where the demand for its services will be in the future. With this analysis, the business will hope to spot an opportunity that its competitors will miss, and therefore take a greater market share. The outward-looking view needs to take consideration of certain aspects of the internal environment as well, such as the existing culture and values of the organisation. So this is often one of the most difficult aspects to change in an organisation, so any strategy that warrants a significant change in culture and values should be planned carefully. For example, if a low-price, high-volume manufacturing company wanted to move into the market of premium, bespoke products, it would require a massive cultural shift in the mindset of the entire organisation. So this doesn't mean that culture and values cannot be changed, but the business analyst needs to make sure that any major cultural changes are done consciously and planned carefully to prevent any difficulties in embedding the change. The next step is a definition stage, and this is about defining at a high level the options for the change that's needed to accomplish a strategy, or if the investigation has manifested itself from an operational issue, the options for change to resolve the operational issue. So BA may start this by investigating and documenting the current system. So that's a holistic business system we're talking about, like the people, processes, systems and organisation. Another term for this is the baseline, or the as-is state. So following on from this, the business analyst can identify what the key stakeholders believe the system, again holistic business system, is doing or should be doing. So this will give a conceptual view of the system. These views can then be consolidated into a consensus state of what the system should do, and this is the desired future state, also known as the target or to be state. So this can then be compared and contrasted with what the system actually does in order to identify gaps. These gaps then become the scope of the change, and the BA can begin to identify options for closing these gaps and make recommendations for which options are most suitable by analysing the costs and benefits of each option. These can be presented to the business in the form of a business case. Within the business case, the goals and objectives of the change can be identified. So next is the design stage, and this is concerned with taking the high-level definition of the change and completing the lower-level design specifications of the change. For a business analyst, this will involve requirements elicitation. Elicitation means that the requirements need to be drawn out of the business user. The requirements are like gold. Gold does not fall from the sky. But if you know where to look and have the right tools and equipment, then you can find it. The requirements should be across the entire holistic business system. So again, people, processes, systems, organisation. A lot of time will be spent with various stakeholders throughout the different areas and hierarchical levels of the business. So interactions could be in large group workshops, one-to-one interviews, written communications such as questionnaires or emails, phone calls. There's lots of people interaction required to ensure that all requirements have been captured. The design has to be aligned to the business needs. It also should be aligned to the objectives that were identified in the definition stage. So careful watch should be kept out for things such as scope creep or non-essential requirements. During this stage, a consideration should be had for testing. A high quality requirement should be documented in a way that means it's easy to identify whether the requirement has been achieved. It's this acceptance criteria that can then be used to test whether the solution has met the requirement prior to implementation. The implementation stage is all about embedding the change so that the target state becomes the current state. This requires a coordination of all the designed elements so that the changed versions are available at the right timescales to interact with each other. For example, if a new process requires a new system and user training, there's a need to ensure that users are trained in anticipation of the process being rolled out, which must coincide with the system changes. Success of the change is often contingent on the people affected accepting it and working in a new way. For individuals outside of the change world who may become very used to the old way of working, this can be quite a scary prospect. The business analyst needs to make sure that as part of implementation, these people are comfortable, they know what they're doing, and any concerns they have are addressed promptly to prevent the risk of them reverting to the old style of working. At the realisation stage, we check in with the changes that were designed, were implemented, and have been embedded in the organisation. The business situation is measured to see if the current situation matches what was the target situation at the beginning of the cycle, i.e. the to-be model has become the as-is model. At the beginning of the cycle, we also defined objectives. And the realisation stage is a post-implementation check to assess whether these objectives have been met. If these objectives were financial, then the actual costs can be compared to the predicted costs. And where these fall short, an assessment can be undertaken to identify why. As well as expected benefits, there may be unexpected benefits. These can be identified and used to measure the success of the change. At the end of this exercise, the embedded change becomes a business as usual situation, and the whole cycle can be repeated with the business aligning itself to the external environment. So to recap, the business change lifecycle has 5 stages: alignment, definition, design, implementation, and realisation. So alignment is concerned with the business aligning itself to the external environment to make sure that it can adapt to the markets in which it operates. Definition is where high-level options for change are identified and expressed in a business case. Design is where the low-level detail is specified. This is where the requirements are created. Implementation is ensuring that everything is set for go-live to give the change the best chance of embedding. Realisation is a post-implementation assessment of whether the change is embedded and whether it achieved its objectives and goals. And that's it for this lecture. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.